Hi
Hi,
Manju,
hi,
how
how
are
are you?
you?
I met you during the Ye Jawani Hai Diwani promotions in Dubai.
Really?
Yes.
Where did we meet?
Did you come to Dubai for the promotions? Because
No,
entire staff, you were not
no,
there. Okay, the
I
staff.
was not there.
So we had covered it. So yeah, I remember that way.
You've been in Dubai for that long?
I've been in Dubai for 14 years.
Oh wow,
Yes, yes.
nice, nice.
Yeah,
How
and
are you?
I'm good, and I'm so excited to see. I mean, the trailers looks interesting, and there's so much of mythology there, so much of uh,
Trailer, trailer ही नहीं है
trailer
Manju. Actually, it's just a poster that we've launched. I mean, I know we've created a lot of dhamal around launching it,
okay,
but actually, it's just our first. It was just to introduce this idea of this boy with this fire trishul,
yeah,
with this deity behind him.
right.
Just kind of, it's actually just the poster. So don't think it's the trailer. Trailer to abhi baki hai,
That's
boss.
it. Okay, because it had visuals and it had, I mean, lots of things, right? So
Yeah,
anyway, very
we'll work.
excited. Also, one question which I start with is, it's called Brahmastra. The character is called Shiva. Is there a Vishnu hidden somewhere?
Not in the Brahmastra trilogy
Okay,
is
okay.
my answer.
Uh-huh.
But if you really want to know my thinking behind it, I don't know if you plugged into this. We dropped something over there called an Astraverse movie
Yes, I saw
in
that.
I think
Yeah.
saw
Yes.
that, right? And it's a bit premature to talk about it because even that vision is, still to come to fruition.
Uh-huh.
But my thought while making Brahmastra, crafting it with the work that we did, Manju, on it, at some point, I started to believe very strongly that what we had in Brahmastra was the foundation not just of the Brahmastra trilogy, but like a universe of cinema
Right.
that we can create, a universe of storytelling. And
Mm.
in my mind, with whatever I don't claim to be a scholar, understanding of Shiva is, Indian mythology gods and goddesses are, I feel that there is another trilogy somewhere which would be more Vishnu, Avatar, avatars of Vishnu
Yeah.
related, touching on that symbolism of Vishnu a little more. It's a little, the symbolism in Brahmastra is a little bit more connected with like the Shiv Puranas somehow.
Mm.
Nandi and Shakti and Durga, and naturally, that's what I think we'll see more in the Brahmastra trilogy.
Okay. What fascinates you about Shiva? Because he's a very interesting god, of course, but a character also, if you look at it as a person. What fascinated you about Shiva? I mean, as a child, or is it something that you started?
So I'll tell you, it's a very nice question. I'd like to answer it because I was like I consider myself to be like an equal believer in all gods, but I am perhaps a little partial to Shiva.
Okay.
Okay. When we named Ranveer Shiva in the film, and to be honest, when we began with Brahmastra,
Yeah.
I did not begin it knowing so clearly, if I'm being honest, the way that the Shiva energy would infuse the film.
Mm.
Honestly, I named the character Shiva, and then it just started to happen. I'm telling you this, like Ranveer's introduction song was meant to be some DJ festival. Suddenly, it became like a Durga Ma Visarjan. Like it just entered the imagery that like
Wow.
deity that you see at the back. And so, like these are things, a little bit more in the faith-based thing to talk about. But I really believe that
Mm.
there is some other energy that's also guiding my journey on
Mm.
Brahmastra. But I guess for me, the it always felt like uh, Vishnu Bhagwan was more the sort of like the day-to-day, the real life dealing with relationships, etc. And I guess as like a creative person, I was always more interested in like the spiritual realm, the idea of like Shiva the yogi, like I'm, sort of meditate and chant myself a lot.
Mm.
um, Shiva the mystic,
Yeah.
uh, uh, the god of the moon, the night. So
Yeah.
that imagery and what it stood for was very like powerful for me, has always been.
Yeah.
And I guess I also grew up a lot because I'm
On
like half
mythology.
Bengali. I grew up a lot around like Durga Ma and Ma Kali. So
Yeah.
there's it's I guess I just fell a little bit more on that side.
Yeah, it is an extension to your own culture, right? So mythology plays a very important role in a lot of Indian people's lives because you've grown up with these stories and with Amar Chitra Katha, and there are so many references to mythology, which are like stories. Forget the
Right,
religious bit; it's like a
right,
good story, interesting story that you learn.
right,
So writing it is one space, but creating it is a huge thing.
right,
So, and
right.
tell me about that process because you can write anything down, saying, and then creating it into this.
Manju, it's all been quite amazing and incredible. And to be honest, the time has come to articulate some of that. But the real truth is now that there is, with as much as I try to articulate it, it sort of reduces the actual the actual theme that we've created with Brahmastra, because Brahmastra is filled with a lot of influences. It's
Hmm.
got this strong hand of someone like myself, which is like a modern Indian filmmaker drawing on our roots,
Yeah.
in a very organic, not in a
Yeah.
scholarly fashion,
Yeah.
but in a very organic fashion. It's also got my love for like spectacle cinema that like the West has created, like big stunt sequences, beautiful visual effects, just taking visual storytelling to it's this blend. It's a story set in the modern world with modern characters. So there is
Hmm.
also a lot of the the modern seeker in me who was writing about young characters in Wake Up Sid and Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. That is also kind of like going on through this film. And in some way, I think like if there was a quest that Sid was on in Wake Up Sid and uh, uh, Bunny was on in Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, I feel like the character of Shiva in Brahmastra is on more of a spiritual quest in this film. Like I think maybe I had also come at that point where I was thinking a little bit more about, like the energy of my life, the energy of like places, people in my life. What is the purpose of life? How do you want to live life? What is energy? What does it
Hmm.
mean? And I think that in a that has infused Shiva's journey within this big fantasy action spectacle.
Right.
So there are all these influences running through Brahmastra, modern writing, Indian myth, and I hope that the concoction is very beautiful and very original,
Hmm.
and I think it is, and I believe it is actually. I think as I'm being mild about it, I believe it comes together in a very nice fashion, but it is better experienced than, me trying to break it down academically.
Right. You also tweeted that when you watched the trailer of RRR, Rajamouli sir's,
Ji, ji.
and then Bahubali did set a tone for films like these. Do you see this new genre of Indian movie making happening?
So,
Which
I'll tell you honestly, Manju, Brahmastra is very different than Bahubali in its filmmaking syntax. It's far more youthful. It's far more set in the modern world. It's set in the modern world. Its syntax is definitely more new age
Hmm.
than Bahubali. But what Bahubali did is definitely, I think that it showed us the power of like cinematic spectacle, especially to get people into theaters and telling them that like sort of offering that experience that honestly I also knew years ago that if you want to get people to go to the cinema to watch stuff, you got to give them stuff that's worthy of the cinema,
Right.
right? So I think Bahubali really showed us the power of that. And I think a lot of people have that in their minds now. And there is this feeling that it is the big event films. I don't even think this is a new thing. I think it's been around for many years. I think Hollywood stumbled upon it like
Yeah.
a decade ago, where they understand that, listen, if you want that big box office feeling of like celebration at the movies, then you got to create stuff that's for the big screen.
Right.
So Bahubali is definitely, in that sense, like a
Hmm.
precursor to Brahmastra.
Right. Tell me about Ido Portal, the guy who you roped in for
You
movement.
know, you
Tell
know,
me
you know.
about that because
So Manju, the power that this character Shiva has in the film, and we'll articulate it more through the promotions, is the power of fire. Again, something like I mentioned to you, like Shiva, I chanced upon, I went with fire because I guess intuitively, like fire is such a powerful force. Like it's,
Right.
you see it as a really elemental thing. And later on, I realized that it's so tied in with like Indian culture as well. Fire, like we use
Yeah.
fire for everything. Now, unlike some of the Western storytelling or Western superhero films, like we were creating something here that had no basis. It's not story from myth. It's not like something based on a book that somebody's
Right.
written. So, uh, in the story, Shiva has a certain relationship with fire. He comes from a certain place and he has to harness this power. Now, who do you go to kind of figure out this boy's action moves in an action scene when he's harnessing this fire? Do you go to like an action director, like a stunt coordinator? Do you go to like a dance choreographer? Ido Portal is almost like a philosopher of movement. Like he's this very sort of like accomplished guy who like has written like very deeply about like movement culture, and he's an intellectual and a thinker and has like experienced like lots of like things from all around the world. So that's why I went to him, to be like, okay, now help us build the physicality of this boy. We'll work out the stunt sequences, but you come in and tell us, how does Shiva throw a fireball in this film? And as you see more visuals of the film and you see it, I hope that you'll be like, and it felt very natural. It felt very like it didn't bother us. It just flowed so naturally.
Right. My last question is, how did you arrive to the casting, apart from Ranbir, who's regular in your films,
Yeah.
and of course the support from Karan and the production and all of it together? If you can tell me about that.
So, Manju, I'll tell you very honestly, the cast worked out. I mean, Alia,
Yeah.
it's taken many years now. She's proven her talent. When we started, she was a very young actor.
Yeah.
Um, but she was always super exciting and it was a young pair. So, she was perfect for it. And she was always like the next to inherit the, like the Deepika, like after Deepika, it was always Alia. And she was right for it. And Mr. Bachchan plays the character of the guru in the film, like almost like my Indian version of Professor Dumbledore from Harry Potter or Gandalf from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. There's nobody better than Mr. Bachchan to uh, represent that. So the cast was everybody that we wanted. We went to, but the real truth is that the concept of the film and the vision has been so large that that's always taken up the mantelpiece on Brahmastra. The cast just bought into it. Concept has always been bigger than all of us, than me, than the cast, everything. Production has been very challenging. Uh, the production started with Karan, but we've got a lot of support. I don't know, the film is actually funded by Star as a conglomerate, now Disney Star. They actually gave us the investment to make the film, and it was a very large investment. So they are huge partners on the film. You see on the credits, Prime Focus is also mentioned. It's because they've like made a lot of forays into visual effects in the West, in London. So they played a very key role in bringing the visuals alive. So it's been a coming together a lot of forces, Karan's production support, VFX from somewhere, money from somewhere, a lot of us, who've come together to produce the film. The production journey on the film has been as creative as the creative journey on the film, because we didn't know how to make this film and how to get this show up. And even from me as a director, it took a lot of producing actually on this film to get the vision on the big screen.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that journey is very important. And to make films like this, actually, the role of producing is very, very important, to get that vision on the big screen.
Great. My time's up. Thank you very much for
We'll
speaking.
speak again, Manju.
Yes, of course. There's a lot to
Yes,
talk about. Yeah,
lots to talk about. Take care.
yeah,
Hopefully, we'll come to Dubai soon.
sure. See you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.